Welcome to the Co-Host Bros Podcast, where we break down everything short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, and building a profitable hospitality business. Whether you're a host, investor, or property manager, we share real strategies, real insights, and real experiences to help you scale smarter and grow faster. Let's dive in.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Co-Host Bros Podcast. My name is Matt Cotta. I'm here with Austin Spitzenberger, and today we have a special guest that I hate to say that I know absolutely nothing about because we didn't even discuss that. We have Annie Holcombe here. So introduce yourself, tell everybody about you, and then Austin will start asking questions. It's going to be awesome.
I feel like I should make Austin introduce me because he just seems to know more about me than you do. He should have told you about me,
He told
right?
me nothing.
He told you nothing.
I'll do the 30-second elevator pitch. So Annie and I met at Verma this year, and it was great. She had a booth there. She has a podcast called Alex and Annie. It's very popular in the short-term rental space, so a lot of people have heard about her. She has an extensive history in the vacation rental space from like a property management perspective, and she's very knowledgeable. I think one thing is about Annie, I think she's pretty prevalent on like LinkedIn and stuff. So Matt, like maybe you're not as much on LinkedIn. I'm kind of starting to get more into the LinkedIn space. But that's kind of how we connected, and I've listened to a few episodes of her podcast. I don't know, Annie, what did I miss there? I was a fairly decent shot.
I'm impressed. You actually remembered more about me than I thought you would, so that's good.
There it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Austin's fault. I just manage the calendar. Like, I'm at his whim.
Well, that's great. If you have a bad guest, you can always blame him, right? So if this doesn't land well, it's all Austin's fault. It's
perfect. You have a great personality already, so I think we'll do okay. But there have been some before, where we're like, should we?
So that's a question I would throw at you guys. Have you ever had a guest where you got done with it and you just went, we can't put this out?
One time ever, and he wasn't there for it.
Ooh, but he got the guest?
No, I don't know how we got the guest, but it was a special.
You're pointing at me on my screen.
On your screen. On my screen, he's pointing at you too, but he's really pointing at me.
Because I'm in the middle on my screen.
Do you guys do you put it out on video, or is this just all audio?
So normally we just do audio. I don't have time to edit the video. Yeah. I may start doing video, but we usually just put out audio. If they ask for video, we'll start putting it out. But
gotcha.
I saved them. But yeah, so we booked a guest, and then Austin couldn't be there for some weird reason. I don't remember what it was. I'm always pressuring Austin. I'm like, we're behind, Austin. I need to post. I need to have episodes queued up, ready to go. Like, Come on, man. And we booked this guy, and then I booked somebody else who's going to take Austin's place that we knew. And he did really well. I guess not so much. It was just, it didn't work. So we decided it is one of the unpublished episodes. That's it.
He didn't actually publish it. Okay, gotcha.
We did not publish it. No, I still have it though. Maybe I'll publish it.
Yeah.
Actually, there's another second one too. Me and Austin did an episode together, and we were talking about short-term rentals, but then we started talking about something else that had nothing to do with what we were talking about. And I can't remember what it was. Oh, the barber or something. I don't know what it was. I think we were talking about the barber for like an hour.
Yeah. What happened is somebody didn't show, and then we were just like, all right, well, we both allocated this time to make a podcast, so we just hit record, and we're like, let's just talk about short-term rental stuff. And then it just became way too casual and conversational, and at the end of it, I was like, dude, we can't put that out. Like, that's bad. Like, I don't know, but it was a great conversation.
Yeah.
We started talking about haircuts and stuff. It was way off topic, but
I thought it was good. I mean, people like that.
You never know. People might want to get to know that about you. Just you underestimate your audience.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Maybe we need to revisit posting that one. But anyways, let's jump into it. So Annie, based on my kind of 30-second elevator pitch of kind of what I know about you, if you can, just give our listeners that maybe don't know kind of how you came up in the space and a little background on your experience.
Yeah. So I don't want to date myself, and I'll just say that I started when I was 2. So I started in short-term rentals, really in hospitality in the early 90s, working at a hotel front desk for a large company in the market where I live, which is the Panama City Beach area. And the owner of the company said, you're not good for the front desk. You need to move to the sales department. Moved to the sales department, kind of worked my way up through there. And then I had been doing group sales and convention sales for their company for really, I don't know, several years. And another kind of family in town who owned like the other half of the businesses in town, they bought a resort and they were going to renovate it, and they were hiring people. And so I got hired to go over to that resort, was there for a little bit. And then somewhere along, I don't know, mid to late 90s, they decided they were going to tear half the resort down and build condos and get into the condo business and get into vacation rentals. So somewhere about 97, 98, that was when they kind of made their pivot, started, again, tearing buildings down. And that was how I got into short-term rentals, vacation rentals, was just that company. They brought in a general manager who was from Myrtle Beach, who had gone through a similar sort of metamorphosis of that market. And he said, we're going to be the biggest management company on the beach. Don't know how to tell you to get there, but I know we're going to do it. You're going to be the person that did it. And I was like, great. I don't have any idea. I don't know anything about this side of the business. I understood hotel business. I understood hotel front desk, hotel operations, hotel sales, reservations, revenue management from hotel side. So I had all my, my early years was all hotel based. But I got into short-term rentals. And so what I was tasked to do was, as the buildings were coming up in the market, so a lot of people were selling their properties, and it was all these mom and pop motels, and they were selling the land to developers that were coming in and building condos. And I was tasked with going to meet the developers, meet the new associations as the buildings came out of the ground, try to get contracts to manage the buildings, to manage the front desk, to manage the rentals, to manage the associations. And I was just doing all of this stuff. So really quick education on how to speak to people about the business I knew nothing about. So I spent a good part of 2 or 3 years with my foot in my mouth pretty regularly, but learned a lot about it. And we went from a 625 room hotel resort to ultimately managing about 3,000 properties under association management. And at peak, we had around 1,800 on rental in that market. So did that for several years, and then actually left the company with 2 coworkers and my husband and started a management company. In that time, Expedia had been coming through the market, and they obviously were strong with hotels. The market manager and I became friends, and I complained to him about how they didn't know anything about vacation rentals, and they didn't understand, the fees, and they didn't understand how to message, and they didn't understand the content and how we needed to have more photos, and we needed to have different cancellation policies, and they just didn't understand that. So a couple years into that relationship, they decided they were going to put somebody in the market, and the market manager said, I think you'd be perfect for going for this role because you're in the market. So I did, and I transitioned out of the company I was part of. Whole backstory there I can go into later, but went to Expedia. So that started my kind of foray into the OTA world. Was at Expedia for 4.5 years. And the last 2 years I was on what they call global accounts, key accounts, and managed what they called at the time non-traditional lodging. So that was anything that wasn't hotels. It was campgrounds, it was vacation rentals, it was, houseboats, anything that just didn't fit in the hotel world was I managed kind of on the larger level, anything within the US. So I managed Wyndham, vacation rentals, the ownership group, Diamond Resorts, a lot of the timeshare groups. And one piece of one of my accounts was actually a channel manager, and they ultimately went under. And the software, when they were revived, I was asked to go join them, left Expedia and go join this software company to revive this channel manager. Thus, I moved over to the channel management side of things. So that's kind of my career, as I've been in property management, channel management, and the OTA world. And now I'm out on my own, and joking with my friends call me Free Range Annie. So I'm out in the wild trying to figure things out and sort of share all this, 30 plus years of knowledge and experience back with people who are looking to get in the business. Maybe they've been in the business for a few years, probably have about 25 units, only listing on Airbnb, and don't know what they don't know. So I'm trying to share all that knowledge with them on a daily basis.
Awesome. So you would say, am I correct in saying that like what you're actually doing today is more of like consulting side of things? Is that what you're saying?
So, and I hate to use the word consulting because it always sounds like somebody's going to come in and like solve all your problems. I think for me, it's just, I see that there's people that are in that they joined the business kind of post COVID, and they just don't know what they don't know. And and unfortunately there's been some groups out there that educate people on, the kind of, I don't know, I'll say the unethical way of doing business. It's just really about like taking all the money and running, and you're going to get rich, and they're not giving them foundational knowledge base to work from. So I want to be able to help people tap into education through like the VRMA, Vacation Rental Management Association. We were just at their conference last week, other associations, and tapping into people like Matt who are doing kind of these smaller groups to help educate and help give people the foundational knowledge to build their business. So not really, I don't want to consult with people as more as I want to just enable and help them tap into their best selves.
Yeah. So you mentioned they may be like started post COVID and they have like 25 listings, maybe only using Airbnb. So you're kind of coming in and exploring other options on how they can actually really build a business. Is that correct? And like how to make it become more of a property manager, or like what does that look
Yeah,
like?
so I think there's so many different pieces of it. So there's people who, again, they just had people just throw units at them, and maybe they don't own anything. Everything they're doing is kind of, some people are still using spreadsheets and not using any software. So maybe helping people find the software that they need so they can grow if they want to grow. Having a business development mindset, so they're looking at all of the things that you need to grow your business, from your staffing levels, and I can bring in experts for that. Help them with their technology, help them with their distribution. That's a really big one that I obviously know a lot about. There's a lot of people that are in these groups that are building Airbnb empires. And I have, if all people want to do is list on Airbnb, and that's fine. I just think it's erroneous to tell people you can build this empire on Airbnb. All you're doing is building their business. You're not building your own standalone. And I've heard so many horror stories about managers that list on Airbnb, and one bad thing happens and Airbnb shuts their account down and their entire business crumbles. And so it's really just enabling people to do, to be successful in the way that they want to be successful, but have the right information to be successful and be able to stand on their own. So building a brand that can stand on their own, having more distribution than just Airbnb, having the foundational thought process with their technology, with their operations, with their SOPs to service guests. It runs the gamut, and was kind of the reason that I named my company Annie & Co. was because over 30 years, I built a pretty extensive network of people that have all levels of experience and kind of touch on all the points of business that people would need to tap into.
Yeah, I think I just get anxiety thinking about that. People that are only leveraging one platform like Airbnb,
Yeah.
building their entire business on someone else's land, which I understand how it could come to that because their software and everything is so great and it's so easy to
Yeah.
use that like you can easily build a business just doing Airbnb, but also you're leaving money on the table by not exploring other options. And let's be real, like they have all the control and they can change rules and they can change policies and they can change whatever they want to benefit whoever their audience they're trying to cater to. So I think, to me that's kind of a scary thing, and it makes me think about like the future of our industry of like I feel my prediction is kind of that there's going to be some kind of transition that's going to take place where the OTAs are kind of taking power away from people that, you know, direct bookings is always a topic, right? But like when you talk to property managers, like Rachel, for example, Rachel all day, she's like 60%,
Yeah.
direct
Direct.
booking, which
Yeah.
is so cool. And it's amazing. And it's like, okay, that's what I'm thinking about. Like, how are we getting there? Because most property managers, a lot of them, for the most part, they just leverage the OTAs and they do have direct booking options. Like for us, like I'll just be public with it. I think our direct booking is about 15%. Right.
Mm.
So I'm, as an operator, like, okay, I'm seeing the changes that are taking place in the industry and I'm trying to figure out how can we leverage and get more direct bookings and really build the Lazy H Retreats brand versus building up Airbnb.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's interesting because I was listening to a podcast this morning, Simon Lehman's podcast that just came out, and he had on Graham Donahue, and I'm going to get it wrong. It used to be Sykes Cottages, but they just renamed it something else. But he was talking about they're like 80% direct. And that's huge. And my conversation with people is when they say, oh, I'm 80 or I'm 70 or whatever, it's like, okay, great. Well, like what's your occupancy, how much inventory do you still have out there to sell? And he touched on it. It's like, you can't depend on 80% direct anymore because there's demand problems. You're not going to be able to generate the same demand consistently. There's so much inventory that's out there. So you're going to have to supplement it. And so if you have, if you're running 50-60% occupancy, you still have a really, really large amount of inventory that's sitting out there, and you got to look at it. It's like, it spoils on the shelves. It's just, if you don't sell your milk, it's going to go bad. So you need to sell those units. Now, not to say that you want to sell those properties at a loss, but you should be able to put them out there. Even, I always recommend to people, mark it up. Someone's going to book it. And so I think that there's this misnomer that it's either direct or it's not, and you have to have a good strategy. So you're getting the right guest at the right time to fit your inventory in certain times a year. And so, Rachel and Rob all day, they do a great job, and they've got Park City and their markets they're strong repeat markets, but most markets aren't like that. I mean, you've got beach destinations and you've got mountain destinations where, let's face it, I don't know anybody that goes to the same market every single year anymore. There's so much out there to see. People are going to different markets. So repeat factor is not as much as it used to be. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, markets could depend on the same family coming to rent the same place every year, and that wasn't a problem. Well, now it's like, well, we did our family reunion or family vacation in this place last year. Where do we want to go next year? And so people are, mixing it up with going to Europe or doing cruises or, renting a cabin in the mountains versus going to the beach. So I think that you have to have a strategy in place. And some of these folks that are telling people Airbnb, there's a specific type of guest that uses Airbnb, and not that they're a bad guest, but that you're missing so many other people that you could be touching by using all these other channels, a very specific type of guest. Like if you're in a luxury, you want to have some luxury channels. You want to have, maybe if you're close to an urban setting, you want to have some corporate channels so you can get some business travelers. There are people that mix their travel with leisure versus business. They call it bleisure. It's not anything new. People have been doing it, but it's more prevalent now, especially with the kind of advent of people being able to work from anywhere. So people will take their families with them on, when they go to conventions and conferences now. And I think that that's where some of this focus on just using Airbnb is missing the point for people to be diverse and protect themselves.
Yeah. And one thing I'm like noticing too is like there's a lot of bigger managers when we're like kind of trying to add the right units for our portfolio. And when I'm coming across them, they're and this is not everyone, right? There's just some managers out there that they have a lot of hundreds and hundreds of listings, but when you go look at their Airbnb listing or their VRBO listing, like they're not doing certain things like listing optimization. Like the listing isn't even completely filled out. Sometimes there's not even like the correct bed and bath counts, right? So like even like that, you can tell because on their listing, for example, it'll say like 4 or 5 Airbnb reviews, but in those reviews, it'll be over a period of 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So they're overly aggressive. They're aggressively pushing their direct bookings almost to the point where they're not even leveraging these OTAs. Now, when I talk to the owners, because they're interested in working with us, and they show me what their property is producing, I'm like, hey, that's like based on my market knowledge, like conservatively, you're $20,000 to $30,000. This is just an example: $20,000-$30,000 less in rent of what you should be. So there's almost the other side of that coin where it's almost scary to just over rely on direct bookings when they're not even leveraging the OTAs. And then you can pull the market data and see like, okay, well, in this market, realistically 40 or 50% of the bookings are just coming from Airbnb. So it's like it's tough because you want to build out both, because you don't want to just heavily rely on direct bookings and then just kind of make less money. But you need to be strong on the OTAs as well. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to have it, like it's a dual strategy. You got to have it both ways. But I think that's the problem, is people are either the people have gotten into the business and haven't scaled and haven't gone out and sought, advice or education. They're just all in on one way and they don't know. And it gets to a point where if you have, 100 units on Airbnb and that's what you're doing, to pull it back and all of a sudden try to build a brand that's going to be able to stand on it, it becomes difficult. Like, you need to think about these things before you put your first unit out there. Like if you want to, in a year, you want to have 25 units. Well, think about, what does it look like in a year? What SOPs do you have in place? What technology are you going to implement? Do you have a logo? Do you have a website? And then, AI is going to change that. I think that, one of the things that we're seeing is guests, consumers are shopping and using AI to help them find properties now. So if you have good content, AI is going to pick it up. Now, the flip side of that is the OTAs are being embedded into AI. So there's still going to be some challenge there. But I think that if you become the subject matter expert for your market, this is where you can win in a market where there may be a manager who's in multi markets and they don't have boots on the ground. They don't have people there that are putting content out that's going to pick up the information about the restaurants and the attractions and the events and those type of things. That's where you can win. But it all is a strategy that has to be kind of well thought out. And every market is different. What works for Rachel in Park City is not going to work for people that I work for in Panama City Beach. But I'm working with a customer now that's in, Indianapolis. She's going to do something completely different because she's in an urban setting, but she's got great things to work with that she's not capitalizing on. Like she's, near the football stadium and she's near all the venues where things happen. And they have the indie races and they have concerts and festivals and things, that urban settings have that a lot of these, traditional vacation destinations don't. But she knows about it and she should be talking about it and putting that on her website. And so it's part of a bigger strategy for anybody to really know your market and talk about it, but talk about it not only on your website, but to your point of like you're optimizing the listings. If you have your branding on your listing, people are going to see that and they're going to see the, 25 listings that Austin has with his brand on them. And they're going to go, oh, he's a manager. He's not just Austin that has some properties. He's got a brand. Let me go check it out. And that's when that book direct kind of comes into play from the billboard effect. So you want to play in all areas so they all play off each other.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people will not think of all the, like they'll think like the spinning plates, right? They're spinning one plate, but they're not thinking of every other plate around them to be able to capitalize on that. Like Austin was saying, like if you're all direct and you're not capitalizing on your optimization on Airbnb and those kinds of things, then you're missing out on bookings there. I like what you said about the markets is that, I mean, I've heard anybody say that, but it's so true that people aren't coming back to the market the next year. Like, yeah, Park City is like, that's just the family thing, but a lot of the markets, they're not coming back. Like I'm in Galveston, they're not coming back the next year. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't, but most of the time they're not. I also like what you do. I feel like what you do really is to help people with risk reduction, right? So you're basically, saying you got people doing spreadsheets instead of, maybe a trust accounting software or some kind of software to help them, streamline their business. I actually just talked to somebody yesterday that was doing the same exact thing. But my question was, because I want to go all the way back to where we were, when you decided to actually start managing properties and go out on your own, right? Did you actually become the competition in Panama City, or did you decide to go somewhere else?
So when we started that business, we were competition. So we actually, and the great thing was for us, like we started out with 0 properties and within 2 years we had 800. But a lot of that was, I was handling business development for a company. So I had really good relationships with owners, with developers, with associations. So that's one thing that I think is core to this business, regardless of any market that you're in, is it's such a relationship business. And if people, that statement of like, people will work with those that they know, like, and trust. If people know you, if they like you, and if they most of all trust you, they're going to work with you. And so that is something for all of those brands to do as well, is build that trust. So I had that trust, and the people that I partnered with, we had the trust. So we stayed in the market. We didn't, we did venture outside of what the market we'd been in, like a little further to the west, but the panhandle of Florida, I don't know if you've ever been here before, each market is so inherently different across, like there is Panama City Beach and there's kind of like the 30A corridor, which 30A is like, they call it the Aspen of the South. It's like there's lots of money there, private jets, the whole 9 yards. Like, and then you've got Destin on the other side of it. And it's like Destin and Panama City Beach are somewhat similar, but even still a little different. And so it's hard to go into a market when you don't have kind of that pedigree or those relationships already built in, when it's that different. If we went into some place like say North Myrtle Beach from Panama City Beach, that would have been very similar. But again, you're talking, 1,000 miles away. It's not something that's really close to manage to. So we did purposely stay within the realm of what we knew. Now we did partner with properties in Gatlinburg, so we could do co-marketing, co-branding for winter business and summer business. So like we would send them people that were looking for mountains when they would call our reservation department, hey, where are you going for the winter? That kind of thing. And I encourage people to have those kind of collaborative partnerships with markets that are, can be they're not going to be competitive with them at the same times a year. And, kind of I don't know where I'm searching for the word and it's not coming to me right now. Complementary to your business.
So when you were, did you said you helped in like a business development role of like, was it building your own management company or was it like, were you an employee? Help me, did you build your own management company? Sorry,
Yeah.
kind of
So, well, it was me and three people. We started a company from ground up. My husband is advertising, design, graphics, like marketing. So that was his realm. I was business development, kind of the frontline relations. But that's what I had done at the other company before we left. I had done business development for them, and so that was what the role that I just naturally morphed into, and then had the OTA relationships kind of under me, which ultimately led me to working at OTA. So I've had multiple hats, kind of worked in everything. I would say the one part of all of the business I never want to work in again is operations. I don't think anybody relishes working in operations. I've cleaned enough toilets and guest rooms that I'm done with that. But the business development is just a kind of like that's the piece that kind of keeps the machine going. I think is really important.
Yeah, and it seems like you're really good at that because you were telling me at Verma that you went from 0 to a significant number of units very quickly in a short
the
period
0
of
to
time.
800. Yeah. That was the
So,
company we
so
started.
how quickly was that? 0 to 800 units?
2 years. It was 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely bananas.
Yeah.
So if you want to tell me a little bit about that, like, I guess run me through how that went, but really actually scratch that. Let's say this question. If people are listening, what do you think is the number one strategy or business development tactic to use for scaling your business? I guess what was the main thing? How did you go from 0 to 800? Like what was your bread and butter? What was the secret sauce? That's super impressive. So that's really my question. How did you go from 0 to 500 and what strategies did you use to do it?
Well, interestingly enough, I did a post yesterday on my company LinkedIn about two things that I took away that I wish I'd done differently. And one of them was kind of that mindset. And we were operating from a mindset of scarcity. So it was like, get all of them at all costs, whatever you have to do. And I think that more people are learning that that's not the right way to do business. So, definitely have the right mindset. We had a mindset of scarcity, so we were making bad deals. We were, negotiating rental agreements with owners and giving in because maybe they had 5 units in a property that we really wanted. And, one as an example had 2 penthouses at a property. It was a 5-bedroom and a 4-bedroom, beautiful. They were 2 properties that were built next door to each other. Like there was east-west, and wanted those properties really bad. So cut this guy a deal. And whenever you cut deals with owners, those are always going to be your nightmare owners that are going to want everything and complain about everything, even though you've already given them everything. So, but we made a lot of deals, and then we went in and we negotiated to pay for front desks. So we went into associations and said, hey, we'll pay to be in your front desk and rent it from you if you'll allow us to, to handle rentals here. And they weren't getting paid from anybody, or maybe they were self-managing the front desk. And it was a situation at a condo resort where, they had the developer was leasing them the space on the association side, and they were having to pay, say $2,500, $5,000 a month for that space, but they didn't have any rental income to kind of offset it. They were just hoping that they could make commission off of the other people that were renting in the building. So we negotiated deals all over the place to try to get units. And then there was a situation where we would go in and we would get a management company that was, small, and they were like, we're done. And we would buy rental agreements. And we had a cap of, it was about $5,000 per contract that we would consider in terms of what made sense for us at the time. I've seen the multiples that say like Vacasa paid last few times that they had bought. And I never understood how they were going to make that money back because the multiples were just ridiculous. Now I know they were dealing with condos and houses, so the numbers were all over the place, but there's multiple ways to go about it. But I would say the one thing that every person should consider, and this is something I coach people on, is like have your entire team be part of your business development strategy. If you've got housekeepers and maintenance people and people who are servicing these properties, they're going to be your best eyes and ears. If they're cleaning a house in a neighborhood and there's a house next door that maybe they're like, gosh, I would really love to clean that house because it's beautiful and it looks like it's set up great. And they would be a prideful moment for me to say that that's a house that I service. Like they're going to figure out how to get you that lead, to get you connected with that owner, figure out how to find that. And so your whole team should understand what is the value proposition of your business, and they should be able to articulate that. Now, a lot of people contract their laborers out, and that's certainly understandable, but you want to make sure that all the relationships that you have in your business are a source of leads to build that funnel.
Yeah, and it seems like, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it was one of the very few. I spent most of my time networking, but one of the few classes I went to was like the guy was speaking on 5 ways he scaled his business very quickly, and one of them, which we kind of do, but we don't really do, or we used to do. We're not okay. If I can't answer it, then that means we don't do it. So
You're trying to do
leveraging,
it.
like, yeah, but it was one of the 5 ways, and I don't remember all of them, but I remember like, hey, I did 4 out of the 5, and the one that we didn't do necessarily was kind of incentivize the boots on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
to think that way, right? Like we take care of all of them, of course, but like and they would refer us, but like, and maybe incentivizing them or offer some financial like referral fee
Yeah.
if they are willing to go a little more out of their way to make something happen. I mean, it's definitely worth it. So that was one of the things that he mentioned, and I was like, you said it for the twice now, so I'm thinking the universe is telling me I need to get with our operations team and figure out a way
And
to
just make
incentivize.
sure, and I would put an asterisk on that. Just make sure that your state allows that, because sometimes there's rules about like different providers and where you can pay. It's like certainly real estate is one of those ones that always has some hair on it. But everybody that touches your business from whatever perspective, they should be a source of leads for you. And if you build that relationship, they're going to say like, hey, this is, Austin's the guy you want to choose when you go into this market, not this guy, because I trust Austin and he does a good job and his owners are happy and his team is happy. And so you want to establish that. So I think it's like having a culture, one, that people want to be a part of, but having that your team be so proud of the culture that they're in, that they want it to be better and be more successful.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I love that. It sounds like, okay, so in the 2 years that you expanded really rapidly, of course, you guys took a massive amount of action, it seems like, but it seems like maybe one of the pitfalls that our listeners can learn from is maybe the ability uh to say no, and kind of like establishing a buy box of like, hey, you know, we only take properties that make this much or that are in this neighborhood or are with this kind of owner. And if there are owner red flags, we decide that, hey, maybe this isn't a good fit or somebody that we want to work with. So I think that's the challenging part, because there's the balance in the beginning where if you're just getting started in this, like you have to kind of lower the bar and say yes to what you don't know what you don't know, right? But then there's a point where it's like, okay, we should probably say no to this because we've been down this road before, right?
Yeah, I think it's like when you see the red flags, don't ignore them, because those red flags are going to become a flaming bag of poo somewhere down the road if you don't.
Oh, you can say it.
Yeah, shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're cool like that. It's funny. I was actually going to touch on that. I was going to ask you, because I have talked to several people who are in that kind of situation. Like, oh, I, went and got, all these people at 15% because I was just trying to stack people, but it's like not a good fit, this and that. So once you realized, after you spent those 2 years stacking those 800 units, and you realized you had a lot of bad owners and a lot of bad deals, how did you rectify that?
It's one of those things that just over time, it sort of naturally takes care of itself. But I had to get really comfortable, and we had to get really comfortable with telling owners, it's you're not good for us. We're not good together. It's like that breakup conversation. It's not you, it's me, but sometimes it is you. So I think it's just knowing that you're going to have the tough conversations, at some point. But I think that goes back to how you establish a relationship with an owner from the get-go. If you put boundaries in place from the beginning, it's a lot easier to have that breakup conversation. But it's a tough place to be, because you really need to know from the start, is it about scaling methodically, or is it about scaling, just to get to a certain point where you feel like you can make different decisions? I think it's, people get trapped in that, well, if I just get to this many units, I can do X. Well, what does that look like? And what does that pain look like in between? So you have to understand that. And I think that's where so many people, it's, put it all on Airbnb. It's not going to be a problem. And then all of a sudden they've got 50 properties and they're dealing with guest complaints at 3 a.m. and they don't have any systems in place to be able to handle that. And they don't have an after call or after hours call number. And they don't have any SOPs in place to like for the guests to be able to access information. And they don't have the right details on their website because their listings aren't optimized or what have you. And I think there's just so many things that have to be done done up front that people, really need to be mindful of.
Yeah, I think you explained that really well. And I think like a lot of people, they get caught up in like, oh, how many units do you manage? How many units do you manage? And it's just like, why is that a metric that we track? Like, that shouldn't be a metric that we track, I don't think. I mean, if you manage 150 units, but your average property is grossing 30K in revenue, I mean, maybe that makes sense in a smaller market or in a condo market, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, that's a dangerous game, because with more units comes more business expenses. So
Yeah.
I'm always just looking at like, hey, how can we be boutique scale while managing the least amount of profitable properties, but adding selectively where it makes sense? And everybody's different. I guess that's just kind of my approach. That's my take on the situation. That's kind of how we built our business.
Yeah.
But anyways, I want to change directions here. I'm a big listener of your podcast. I say big, 4 or 5 episodes, but I recently discovered it. So I'm about to be a big listener. So 4 or 5 episodes, but I'm about to be a big listener because I've only discovered it like a couple months ago. But you guys have been doing this for what, like 4 years now?
Yeah, 4 years in November.
Awesome. Yeah. So how did that kind of partnership unfold, and kind of tell me about your like experience kind of in the podcast space?
So during COVID, I don't know if you guys ever heard of the app Clubhouse. That had become kind of a big thing. And so I was asked by some folks in Europe to be sort of a member of this group that they called the STR Thought Leaders, I think it was called. But they had people in different continents, kind of strategic. And there was like 15 or 20 of us. And the idea was that we would host these clubhouses. We had to do 2 a month. And it was just kind of, once it started, it was like 2 a month for like ever. Like nobody knew how long this was going to happen. And so I thought it was great because I love to talk to people and we were in a situation where like nobody was doing any business. We're all trying to fight for kind of survival and being relevant. So I jumped in head first. I thought it was great, having good conversations. And I was struggling with putting together different subjects to talk about. And so Alex and I had known each other for a couple of years, just kind of had connected through business. And I asked her to be on a couple of them. We just had good conversation, and we had collaborated on some things between our 2 markets. She was at a property management group in Myrtle Beach when I first met her. And we just started talking about it. And then like the world opened back up. And one day I was on my Bitmoji app and we were just joking about, like, oh, we should do a podcast. Everybody's doing like that. That'd be so much fun. And, not really serious about it. And I found a little Bitmoji app, which became our logo, and I was like, this is what we could do. We just Alex and Annie. And then one thing led to another. We went to the first conference, VRMA in San Antonio that year. And Alex ran into Annette and Sarah that have the Thanks for Visiting podcast, and Will Slickers was there with his podcast. And Annette and Sarah had these shirts on that said, "Ask me about my podcast." They were in the bathroom. And we tell a story all the time because it was so strange. Alex was looking at for me and she texted me and she's like, "You need to, where are you? And I was like, I'm coming down from my room or whatever. I get to the lobby and she's like, "You need to come in the bathroom." And I thought, okay, I'm not sure why you're asking me to come in the bathroom. This just feels very strange. She's like, no, you got to come in. And I didn't know what was about to happen, but walked in and there's these two girls standing there with all their luggage. They couldn't get into their rental. All their luggage was on the bathroom floor. They're trying to like change and clean up because they were registering to the conference had started. And we just started talking to them and said like, hey, we had this idea. And they were like, absolutely. There's no other like women other than us doing this. There's like, some women with guys or like one, but there's no women doing it. And then ended up talking with Will Slickers, and we probably talked to the three of them for about 4 hours that afternoon. And by the time we left the last session on the last day, we walked out and she was like, let's just put it out there. So we announced that we were doing it. We used the Bitmoji logo, said that's what it was, named the show. We'd like come up with some names in the bar while we were there. And a friend of mine, real big housewives, Real Housewives of whatever, and he loves all those shows. And he said, what if you became like the real women of vacation rentals? And that's kind of stuck. Threw it out there, and everybody was like within 30 minutes in the bar saying, oh my God, this is crazy. When is your first episode? And we're like, we don't even have equipment. We don't have any idea what we're doing. So Alex got home, and like by that following Monday, she had us registered on like Buzzsprout and all the different websites, Podpage, and we were building all this stuff. And so we put our first episode out. It was just her and I talking in like end of like before Thanksgiving, I think it was. And then we recorded our first guest 3 or 4 times before we ever got it right. And if it hadn't have been for her, we tell her all the time, it hadn't been for her, we would have just given up. We would have been like, this is, the universe telling us something. But so that was our first episode, I think was like the first week of December, our first guest. And so we've been doing it literally, I think we've missed maybe 2 weeklies where we've had to replay an episode, but we do 5 episodes a month and sometimes more, just like if we have a pop-up, but 4 years now.
I'm your Alex Austin.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
Matt, you're the podcast guy, because I don't know how all this gets done. I just like see the calendar invite and I know how to log into StreamYard. So once I get in here, I'm like, we're good to go. But Matt, that's all you, dude. You're the one that makes it happen.
Yeah. Alex is definitely a put it out in the universe, figure it out later kind of person. And I'm like, well, maybe we should, it's like, but sometimes you got to put it out there and do it. And that's what happened. And it's worked out pretty well for us. So
that's how it worked for us. Like we literally met in the airport. We were, then I was like telling them we're in the airport, and I was like, no, I'm not taking this for granted. We're going to have a meetup. I'm going to have a meetup. And everyone's like, oh yeah, I'll come. And they all thought I was full of crap. And like literally like a week later, I was like, hey, we're having a meetup. And then we had a meetup, and then me and Austin were talking, and he was like, oh, we should do a podcast. And I was like, let's grab lunch. And then we grabbed lunch, and then we named the podcast. And then I was like, all right, ready to go? And then we did it, which is crazy, which is super crazy because we've been doing this for like almost 2 years now. And I'm actually starting another podcast in a few months myself, an entrepreneurial podcast. So that'll be an interesting journey, and that's called Entrepreneurial Soup. So I'll have about 20 episodes already scheduled. But yeah, so it's crazy how things work.
Yeah.
So you guys do once a week or 5 episodes a month, or you just put it out every week?
So we do one, we have a new episode every Wednesday, and then we put out one that is the first of the month episode. And we've just been doing that. That just sort of came about organically. And then we had a first of the month, I think it was 2 years ago, where it was Simon Says. It was with Simon Lehman. And so he came on every first of the month, and he would just talk about whatever, he felt was like the thing to talk about. And it's usually like it was like 15, 20 minutes, maybe the whole episode was 30 minutes, and we'd give an update on what we were doing, something hot coming up, like conferences that upcoming month, that type of thing. And we just have been carrying it on ever since. And so we have the first of the month episode. We do it like our January 1st of the month is always kind of a recap of the year previous and look forward. And so that's always fun. We've been able to do that together, like in person before. We don't get to do it in person very often because we don't live in the same town. But yeah, so we have that. And then every once in a while, we'll have a sponsor that has some big announcement that they want to do. So we'll do a special like breaking news, episode that we throw out. That's kind of a supplement to it.
I love it. Yeah, we had like 3 different formats when we first started, but we ended up just doing the interview format and bringing on rock star guests like yourself. But we were doing like Q&As, and we were doing, what was the other thing? We were doing something else too. I can't remember what it was. I also meant to say, huh?
Like tips. I think we're doing like a
tip of the week,
yeah,
or something. Yeah, we drop those sometimes every once in a while. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, I was gonna say like 30 minutes ago, every time you lift up your cup, it cracks me up.
No, because it's saying bye.
It says bye on it. Everybody, bye.
Bye.
So
That's exactly how they say it too.
Yeah, so every time you do that, it cracks me up. So how many units are you guys at now?
Well, I don't manage units anymore.
You don't
So
do it
yeah,
anymore?
when I left to go to Expedia, I got out of it, and actually that company ended up getting shut down. Probably about 6 months after I left, they got shut down. So I don't know where any of those people are, honestly. Most of them, some of them I still talk to, but so yeah, when I got into the OTA side, I got away from managing properties and just been working with property managers this whole time. So again, it's really what I'm doing now is just taking kind of the three components of the business that I've been working in and kind of taking that knowledge and sharing it back with people.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what's next? Like what do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
I don't know. I mean, I think the idea is to take Annie & Co. and make it maybe more of a, maybe potentially like an agency or something where I can tap into, I've got a really large network of stuff. I talked to things, thinking about just how can I share my passion for the business with other people to help them be passionate about it. I think so many people have come into it and been burned because they've had bad information and they just didn't have the resources to kind of help them through it. I think it's a wonderful industry. It's very giving, very collaborative. And let's face it, if you're in hospitality, you have a hospitality gene. And if you're in it to just make money and that's the sole reason, you'll get burnt out on it because you're not in it for the right reasons. I think that the vast majority of people in this business really like to see other people, enjoy, experience. The one thing that you think about when you're in hospitality is you're part of helping other people make core memories and long-lasting memories. And that's a really big honor to have, is to be part of somebody's memory, whether they remember you or not. They're going to remember the place that they were at. They'll remember how you made them feel or how that house made them feel or whatever. And so that's something that you are part of if you're in this business for the right reasons and you're set up for success. And that's what I want to be able to do, is to help people enjoy the business that we're all in.
I love that.
I love it. Yeah.
My question, what do you think about, what was your experience with, okay, and I'm a noob, first time Verma goer. Was it Verma or VRMA, or is it Verbo or VRBO? Which one is it?
I think it's tomato. It just depends on who you are.
That was like a Tootsie Roll Pop commercial.
Yeah.
The world may never know.
How many licks does it take to get to the center?
What do people mostly say though? Verma?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're trying to be professional, if you're talking about it like from a standpoint of like, if I'm talking to somebody, do you know about Burma? And they go, huh? And VRMA, then you have to say it. Because there are a lot of people that don't know about the association. And so for me, kind of, you're asked like, what's next for me? Like, I just joined the board. So I've got a two-year director seat there. And, my goal, why I'm on this board, is to help grow the association and just expand the tent and bring in more people. And we know that kind of the adage has been, all vacation rentals are short-term rentals, but not all short-term rentals are vacation rentals. And the problem is that short-term rentals are the vast majority of short-term rentals. They're not vacation rentals. And so we need to include people who classify themselves in the short-term rental space. And that's, so want to bring them into the association and grow the association and help the association have a stronger voice for the industry instead of it being so fragmented. So I think that we, collectively, we're all together stronger if we're all together. We know that regulations are facing everybody, whether you are in a traditional market or an urban market. Regulations are getting everybody. And it's not just a US problem. I mean, it's happening globally. I mean, there are markets that have been absolutely shut down, and we don't want that to happen. But until we can get kind of a unified voice and get everybody on the same page, that's going to be difficult. So, for me, it's growing the association, getting more people to know who the association is and know that they can call it Verma or they can call it VRMA.
How did you enjoy it this year? Did you have a good time?
Don't realize
The show was great. I thought I was on some of the committees for this year's show, and I think that I've been going since like 20. I want to say 2012 was my first one, and it's really one of the best ones on my in my memory as far as how it flowed, the education, the way the vendor hall worked. I mean, I think I've been a vendor for the vast majority of the times I've gone, and that's always been a hard place to be, because as a supplier, you need to get ROI out of what you're putting into going to a show and bringing your staff and having a booth and doing a sponsorship. And then as an operator, you're like, oh my God, everybody's trying to sell me something. It's just too much. I don't want to go in that vendor hall. And so there's trying to find a balance where people will be engaged. And I think that they did a really good job this year on that. What did you think?
Yeah, I loved it for the first time going. I think it's kind of seems like the Super Bowl for vacation rentals. So I mean, I definitely want to go next year. I thought the pricing for it was well worth what I got into it. It was great to run into a lot of past podcast guests that I had not met yet in person, or I talked over the phone. So it's like really great because it brings everyone together, and it's people that you see on Facebook, LinkedIn, you have, messaging, very digital conversations with over a period of the year. And then it was like that one event where everybody finally came together and you could actually have like, those conversations in person. So I really loved it. I'm looking forward to next year. I didn't capitalize much on the on the educational piece of it.
Yeah.
I've spent most of my time talking with people like you, which that's where I really get the value from. And that's where I learn the most, because I know what a lot of these people do. So I ran into certain people. I knew what they did. I started
Right.
having the conversation and I got answers from the questions that I needed, that I came there to solve those problems through the people that were actually there versus the speakers. But now the speakers obviously were very valuable. I like how they broke it up into multiple classroom sections, and then like each time period there was a different kind of topic, so there wasn't overlap. So if you were there to grow your business from a business development perspective, almost every window of like an hour and a half there would be something sales related, and then also within those windows there would be something operational related, so you could kind of pick and choose based on what you're doing. And whenever I go to events like that, I try to just pick one big problem that I'm trying to solve, one to two big things, because whenever you go to these things, you get information overload and you write down 20 bullet points and you go home and you do none of them. So it's like the big takeaway for me is don't stress yourself out. Pick one or two things that you want to take away and implement in your business. And if you do that, then you won the conference. I feel like that's kind of what I did. But overall, I thought it was great, and I'm already looking forward to next year. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, so there's a new they've always had a spring conference too, and last year they retooled it and it became it's called Foundations, and so it really focuses on more operational front of the house, back of the house kind of things, that not marketing, not sales, not websites, not technology. It's really about like housekeeping and maintenance and like the things, the operational things that make your business efficient. And so that's what the spring conference is going to be, instead of what the fall is, where the fall is like kind of a little bit of everything. But the fall had definitely this year had a lot of tracks on business development and marketing. So I would say this year or next year's, it'll be at the end of February. I don't have the firm dates yet, but I'll get that to you when I do. But it'll be focused. It's very same format. It's going to be about education and things for your operational, your frontline staff. And so it's not about just, talking to the CEO. It's about talking to the staff that works for you. And it's a really great way to have some of these sessions that maybe you wouldn't be able to bring your staff to, or maybe wouldn't have access to bring back to your staff. It's something that you'll be able to bring staff to. It's going to be in, I believe, Sandestin, so the Panhandle of Florida, towards the end of February.
So there's like within Verma, there's like that was the big one, right? Like that was the big conference, and there's other events. You're saying like seasonally, is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, so like I said, they used to be where they had a spring and the winter was, or like the fall one was the international. That was the big, like you said, the Super Bowl. And they have tried to do some international events, and so I think it's like the last 2 years under Ann Gardner, since she came in to manage the association, and it's just like really retooling kind of what the association wants to be and how it's perceived, and kind of what it's offering the members. And so what they did was they realized like they were doing similar programming in both fall and the spring, and they were missing out on, they was trying to do too much over these two events and trying to cover all areas of a business. And for an operator, taking your team to an event, you need to have a lot of content to be able to justify bringing multiple people, because it's expensive. I mean, travel's not cheap. So really trying to think of like, okay, how can we speak to two different parts of the business? And so there's an exec conference that happens in like the end of May, beginning of June timeframe. That's for the CEO level, the C-suite of companies. Then you have this foundations. It's going to be, it's spring, but they moved it back to February just because it's going to hit before beach season. They wanted to do it timely. And then you'll still have the fall. And I think for next year, you'll probably see some more events or partnered events that they'll do like in market so they can get to more people.
Okay. Yeah, I think everybody should become a member. Like you're saying, we're not good alone. We're better together. Nobody changes by themselves or learns, different things by themselves.
You can't learn in a vacuum, right?
Yeah, and they just hit regulation in my market. That's what our meeting was about yesterday. So, I mean, in Houston, we just had regulation as well. So, which is fine. I mean, I think it's a good thing. It's not overstepping or anything like that. So it's not like it's a bad thing. It's a better thing also, because I mean, there's a lot of arbitrage units, but I mean, and FIFA's coming, but
oh gosh,
on that standpoint, on that standpoint, that's even a better thing. If they could get their crap together so the website would work, that'd be fantastic. But everybody joining organizations together, and I don't know, I mean, how VRMA looks at it, if they look at trying to take absorb other organizations, like for instance, like when Galveston has an organization, different places have different organizations. I don't know how that would work to where the organizations band together, because there's power in the numbers. But
they have a really good Tiffany Edwards, who heads up kind of the advocacy for the association. I mean, she's really dialed in on all the advocacy groups around the country and really helps a lot with people that need regulatory assistance and guidance and connections. I think that, one thing that we're looking to do from a membership standpoint is have a membership level for some of these destination marketing organizations, so like Visit Galveston, and the areas that you have a destination organization, but maybe they're not tapped into what's really going on with vacation rentals outside of what's happening just in your market. And so by being part of the association, there's an ability to share in what's happening with regulations and being able to be proactive. So if it comes up and you see it's on an agenda, you could tap into someone like Tiffany and say like, okay, we know it's going to be on agenda. Here's what they're saying they want to talk about. They may not give you all the details, but being able to proactively have something, available in writing, or just, talking points to understand how to navigate that. So we really want to work closer with these destination organizations to help bridge that gap of knowledge. And so, VRMA is the association that has the potential to be kind of that like an overlord's not the right word, but the overarching voice for the country. And that's where, I think from membership standpoint, and from like, I know my board position that I'm super focused on is like, just, we want to bring these people into the fold and understand what their pain points are and be able to provide education that will help to them, but then also connect them with other people in the industry that could give them tips and tricks and help them avoid some of the pain points that other markets have already gone through.
Yeah, no, that's great. And if she is a contact person for the person in Galveston, let me know and I'll get that for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with that, if you could just tell everybody, well, first of all, I want to say we're truly blessed to have people on just like you on this podcast, and and we appreciate you being here. I personally have learned so much from our 78, 79 episodes. I mean, I know Austin has, and we selfishly get to ask you questions of things that we want to know. You say 800 and Austin's like, I want 800. But yeah, so if you just tell everybody where to find you and, anything else, last piece of advice or anything like that, and that'd be cool.
Yeah. So my dog barked. So
Oh,
I would say, best place to find me is LinkedIn. That's where Austin found me. I'm really active on there, but, my website is anniecosolutions.com, and they can email me at anniecosolutions.com. I'll give you guys that information if you want to put that in your show notes. As far as, one piece of information I would share with people, I think that finding a mentor or finding somebody that you can go to that's not in your market necessarily. I mean, you should always collaborate with people in your market, but finding somebody that's in a different market from yourself to just latch onto from a sharing knowledge perspective. I know that there has been multiple people that have reached out to me just out of the blue saying, "Hey, I don't know what I don't know, like help me." And I've done the same. And I think that's, Austin and I had some good conversations at Verma last week, but, just don't be afraid to ask. I mean, go back to this industry is very giving and collaborative and wants to help people and want to see people succeed. It's not as competitive as it might be maybe in your day-to-day market, as a whole. The industry wants to see you thrive. So definitely just find a mentor, find somebody that you can talk to, that you can have a call with, maybe once a quarter, once a month, something like that. Find a lifeline that can help you see through the noise of the business from day to day.
That's awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much. And with that, I'll let Austin wrap it.
All right. Thank y'all for listening. Peace.
Thanks, guys.